So welcome. In this universe right now, there's a festival going on which we can be part of right now. It's called TIROBHAVA MAHOTSAVA of SRILA Bhakti Rakshak SRIDHARA Deva GOSWAMI. And Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, Chatasya hi dhruvam ritu dhruvam janma metasaja. You have to understand that taking birth and dying is actually the same thing, just viewed from different perspective. But in dual consciousness, we celebrate one and are very sad about the other. So this is called splitted consciousness. And on the spiritual path, it's called Advaitavad, in that non-dual consciousness. Because Krishna is like this, Advaita Majuta Manadi Manantarupam. So we are speaking about a non-dual Lord, because his name and his being is one. We heard from Maharaj, when Mother Yashoda looked in him, she saw everything in him. So there is no duality between inside and outside of him. There is, we heard, when Krishna is having his picnic with the coward boyfriends, they sit in a circle, Krishna in the middle, but each and every of the coward boyfriends, they have the feeling, oh, he's looking right to me. This means he's Advaita. There is no front and back. There is no duality in that. So on the path of Advaita, there is also, we celebrate the appearance of a Vaishnava, but in the same way, we celebrate the disappearance of a Vaishnava. It's Advaita. It's both a great festival. Just with one little Vaishishya, one little difference. When a Vaishnava comes to this world, a very great burning lover of the Lord, normally the world doesn't know at that time who he is, who she is. And they're silent. But when this personality leaves, everyone is crying. So we're very fortunate now to enter in a festival where one of the greatest, today's the day, where one of the greatest Vaishnavas of our time, of modern time, left us here and returned to the eternal abode. So Avirbhav here, when he appears here, this is the kindness of the Lord, that he bears the separation of such a Vaishnava for a short time. Out of his compassion, he gives us the association of such a soul. But Tirobhav means Krishna can no longer tolerate. I have to take you back now. So, and one thing we can be for sure in this world, there's a verse in the Bhagavatam spoken by Muchukunda Maharaj. He says, my dear Lord, when one is liberated from material existence, one gets the association of your dear devotees. It's very interesting. Most of the people would say it's other way around. When we get the association of your dear devotees, we will be liberated from material existence. But this prayer of Mujukunda says it the other way around. And Vishwanacharya Thakur says something very wonderful. He says, when two things happen very short, one after another, you cannot distinguish which was first. So we cannot say, what was first. So that's why we can surely say that we get association of Vaishnavas, and we get to hear and to read about very, very wonderful souls. We can be 100% sure Krishna had great compassion to us. And we can be sure that liberation from the cycle of birth and death, from deepest ignorance, which is for most souls on the spiritual path the main thing. We can be sure maybe this already happened, but we don't realize because service is anyway going on. So there is no much care for that. So today we want to reflect and hear something from Maharaj about Srila Bhakti Rakshak Srila Maharaj in that context. This is just to remember such a soul and just to remember the kindness of the Lord, that He allowed us such association is the surest sign that He is kind to us.
Shriman Krishna Chandra Prabhu ki jai. Magyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Shreshtam Manumapi Saksiputram Atrasarupam Rupam Tasyagrajamarupurim Mathurim Gastavatim Radha Kundam Giriparam Maho Radhikamadhavasam Prapto Yasya Pratita Gripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natasmi Divam Divyantanussu Chandavadnam Balarkachelanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sadika Bharanam Vairagya Sudim Sri Siddhantanidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraspatanambaram Vanditam Subhadam Adikapsharanam Nyachishwaram Sridharam Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Nikhila shruti mali ratnamaladhyuti Nirajita padapankajanta Haji mukta kulairupasyamanam Paritasram harinam samshrayami Anarpita charim chirat karunayavatirna kalo Samarpaitamannatochpalarasya bhakti sriyam Hari purata sundaradhyuti kadamba sandipita Sada hridaye khandare spurato vasachinandana Ajanulambita bhujjo kanakavadatu Sankirtanai kapitaro kamalaya takshum Vishwambaro dvijabaro jugadharma palu Vande jagat priyakaro karunavataru Hladine shakti sarupaya Gauranga hridaya cha Bhakta shakti pradanaya gadadhara namastute He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Radhe Vrindavanadhise Karunamrita Vahine Kripaya Nijapadabja Dasyan Mayam Pradiyatam Bhaktya Vihina Aparadhalakshay Chitta Sakamaditarangamadhe Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapanam Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Srila Gurudev ki jai, Shriman Mahaprabhu ki jai, Shri Shri Gaur Gadadhar ji ki jai, Shri Shri Radha Govinda ji ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. TIROBHAVA Mahotsav Tithi Srila Bhakti Rakshakshya Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanand Hari Hari Bol. So, good evening to all of you. Pranam.
Könnt ihr hören? Oder vielleicht müssen wir ein bisschen mehr
Ja.
zusammenrücken, oder?
You can come closer if you want.
Yes. Ja. Das Platz nicht.
Is it okay? Yeah. I'm not that strict of a sannyasi. Nobody can be close to me, so you can be close. I'm not such a strict sannyasi. Nobody can get closer to me. You can Upanishad. Nandini is not ready to get closer, it seems.
Ja.
She got her asana there. I'll speak as loud as I can, but it may rain as loud as it can. So, yeah, let's hear. Even if you need to put the flowers a little closer, you get closer. So whatever.
It's only for short times.
Okay. Can you hear me there? Trivanga Prabhu is translating. So can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay. I'll try to speak loud. So as Krishna Chandra Prabhu was telling us, we are celebrating very most holy occasion today, which is the TIROBHAVA Mahotsav of Srila Bhakti Rakshakshya Deva Goswami Maharaj. Or his disappearance day, basically. As Krishna Chandra Prabhu appropriately mentioned, both appearance and disappearance of a Mahatma is beyond this fractured consciousness of dichotomies and duality through which we perceive reality. Like rain, non-rain, hot, cold, good, bad, I like, I don't like, birth, death. Long list of dichotomies in fractured consciousness. Friend, enemy, long list. So Vaishnavas, in order to show that this duality has to be transcended, they are pointing to us to those personalities who are beyond those dualities. And therefore we celebrate both their appearance and their disappearance day. So on one level, on one level of the Abed equation, we could say Abed. There's no difference between birth and death in a great personality. Or even there's no difference between birth and death in anyone. I mean, if you are not a great personality, you will perceive a difference. And you will be afraid of the difference. You will be celebrating the birth, but when death is getting closer, you don't want to speak about that too much. As we said the other day, for Yudhishthira Maharaj, this is the greatest paradox on earth. No? If there is one single thing that will happen to exactly every single person, is that everyone will have to leave their bodies. And if there is one single topic that most of the people do not like to speak about, is that single thing that will happen to every single person. So that's paradoxical, because we spend time speaking about so many things that will never happen to all of us. No? Sometimes people are really getting interested about the latest news about whatever. If the princess in UK got COVID or not. What will that change my trajectory into eternity? How that will actually be affecting my own life? But we are consuming all this gossip like it's totally irrelevant to our individual situation. But when the time comes to speak about that thing that is absolutely 100% universal and relevant, most of us do not want to hear nor speak about those things. So in one sense, again, Vaishnavas will tell us birth and death are two sides of the same coin. So as we spoke these days, we should, as in the drama was mentioned yesterday as well, death will put life into context. So we need to integrate the two. We need not to see a difference between one and the other. So the more you see how death is life, and how life is death, the more you will understand what's real life and what's actual death. Because in the conditioned state, we don't have a clear idea what does it mean to be alive, and we don't have a clear idea about what's the meaning of death. For example, the personality we are celebrating today, he was very fond of quoting Hegel,
Yes.
and a very short line, 3 words, that include these 2 words, death and life, but in the proper context. So Srila SRIDHARA Maharaj, one of his favorite quotes will be, die to live. So when you hear that, it's not that live to die. Generally in this world, people will have that orientation. You live till you die. But here he's saying die so you can live. There's another type of life waiting for you, but for that there is a type of death waiting for you first. And of course that's the type of death that Krishna is inviting Arjuna to go through in the Bhagavad Gita as well. Which we could call it the ego death. So the more we die to our false sense of identity, the more we can be really alive to who we actually are. Or to all that we can be, to all the potential of the Atma. So Vaishnavas, to make that point, celebrate both birth and death of a great personality. Because great personality is born as a great personality and is living as a great personality. So that's the Abed side of the equation, the non-different side. No? We celebrate both birth and death of great personalities. But our philosophy is not only Abed or Advaita, but we venerate that non-dual side. But there's also Bhed, Achintya Bhed, Abhed. So there's difference and non-difference. So Krishna Chandra Prabhu also made this point as well. So although the appearance and disappearance of the great personality is the same. Also, we can establish one difference. And he mentioned that. He said when a great soul is born, maybe nobody knows. But when he or she is passing, leaving this world, everybody knows. So in one sense, the TIROBHAVA MAHOTSAVA is a special celebration. So that's the bad side of the equation. There's some difference between the two, and there's some special grace in that TIROBHAVA, in that celebration of the Nitya Lila Pravishta, no? The entrance into the eternal game, divine game of Bhagavan. Can you hear me?
Yes.
If not, get closer because my throat is, that's a limit. There's some place here if someone wants. Yeah. So, also in this disappearance day, we have a special mercy because we can access the what we call union by through separation, union in separation. That's a way to attain the ultimate union. That's what Mahaprabhu taught. The mercy is raining more and more.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Samsara davana lalila lokatranaya karunya ganaganatram. You are singing that every morning, so now you are calling for that. That's coming. I'll take this in my closet, maybe. So there is a way to get united by separation. Again, this sounds paradoxical because for dual mind, separation is separation and union is union. Again, right here. Oh. You can put that on one side and everyone can fit here. It's raining quite heavily for those connected online who kind of are wondering what's going on. We are fixing some technical details here. The more Krishna Chandra Prabhu says, it's a few minutes, it will pass, it becomes stronger.
Our friends from France are walking up. Yeah. They get a lot of pleasure.
I think some water is coming.
Yeah, our friends are getting a nice shower now.
One second, quick.
Yeah. Please, 1 second. We are fixing some details here.
We are arranging.
I don't think you have microphone here, no, like for amplification.
That's
okay.
Is there any application of the telephone maybe with the microphone or speaking?
The suggestion is that we go in the temple room.
Yes.
Oh, now it's
Maybe the
But in that case, we will have connection there, no?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want.
aber ich hätte das nicht an. Ich bin auch
Maybe, huh? We just shift to the temple room.
Okay. So we will shift to the temple room. So wait a few minutes. We are there. Yes, you can hear perfectly there, but not anyone here can hear perfectly. So we'll go there. So the thing is how to. I will take this without.
No.
Yeah. Thank you. Because if I turn it off, the streaming will stop. So I'll go straight there.
I can get an umbrella.
I'm okay. Okay.
Was noch ganz cool ist oder so.
So.
Oh, Maharaj. Oh,
No
sorry.
problem.
Please.
Go. Almost there.
Yes.
Okay. Can you take this one second? Because so to go up with this is yes. Thank you. Okay.
Maybe you turn the light on, or is it too?
Yes, yeah, maybe, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's better.
I can be on which side here?
Usually, it's
This side?
Yes.
Okay.
I think there's also an Asara for you.
I can use that one. That's okay.
No, there's another one.
I'm okay with this one. I'm okay.
I'll show you. Very comfy.
No. It is perfect for me.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
But maybe you have something to put the.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know if some.
There's
some-
a harmonium
This
is
downstairs.
Yeah, but if it's enough for all
No,
of
we
you.
don't need to.
Okay. It's okay. Yes.
That's good. Maybe here, huh?
You have the second one? No.
For Robert Ryan,
Okay. So here we are back. 1 second. Here in the temple. Meanwhile, we'll share darshan of Sri Gaur Gadadhar here also. Jai Shri Radhe. Shri Radha Govinda Ji. Presiding deity Sri Gaur Gadadhar. The darshan of the Vaishnavas here. Om Hari Bol.
Chandra is going to sit there.
Can come closer if you want. Maybe you may need some space.
Yes.
Okay. Hello, come closer. I will use this.
That?
Yes. Maybe later. Yeah? Thank you. Someone was asking something. Yeah.
You recorded the drama also, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Because
Then
we recorded it, but it's not possible to share it.
okay.
There's a new session.
Yeah. Then you remind me. And I said, okay.
So
We continue here.
peaceful, secure,
Dry.
dry, and quiet.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Shri Gaur Gadadhar ki
Jai.
jai. Shri Radha Govinda Dev ki jai. Shri Bhakti Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai.
Hey.
So we were on the topic of the bed and a bed side of the equation. On one side, the appearance and the disappearance of the sadhus are equally important, but on another side, there is special importance in their disappearance. because that gives us the chance to enter into the unique paradoxical experience of union in separation. Or as we were speaking this the other day, there is a possibility of sweetness in suffering. In the conversation between Mahaprabhu and Sri Ramananda Rai, at one point, after the main conversation, comes like a very, how they say today, they say like chit chat or something like that. A very short questions and answers. So Mahaprabhu asked Rai Ramananda, what's the greatest type of suffering? Rai Ramananda has only one thing to say: Krishna Bhakta Viraha Bina Dukkha Nahyar. Apart from separation of the Krishna Bhakta, I know of no other suffering. But again, that suffering in separation from the Vaishnava is a suffering that makes us get closer to them. So we call it suffering, but if something is bringing me closer to the Vaishnava, how much we can call that suffering? No? But some word has to be ascribed to that emotion, so sometimes that's called suffering. So today we are celebrating, again, the divine disappearance day of Srila Bhakti-Rakshasya Goswami, which is one of my Param Gurudevs. In other words, the guru of my guru. My Guru Maharaj has taken shelter in Srila Sridhara Maharaj as his Siksha Guru. Right after Srila Prabhupada, his Diksha Guru, Harinam Guru, Sannyas Guru, he passed away from this world. My Guru Maharaj told me once he was massaging the feet of Srila Prabhupada, and someone asked Srila Prabhupada, because these were the last days of Srila Prabhupada. So everyone started to know at any moment he may leave. So someone asked him, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he asked him, when you are no longer with us, Srila Prabhupada, is there someone else we can go for shelter, for guidance? So he mentioned on one side Srila Narayan Maharaj and connected him also to the details as well of his Samadhi ceremony. And also he said for philosophy, which is another way of saying for Siksha, my god brother B.R. Sridhar Maharaj in Navadvip. And he will say many wonderful things about Srila Sridhar Maharaj. Srila Prabhupada will say, Srila Sridhar Maharaj is my Siksha Guru. So he said, for what to speak the benefit you will get from his association. He is my own Siksha Guru. It's funny because once Srila Prabhupada passed away and some devotees took shelter in Srila Sridhar Maharaj, as always happens when a great Acharya leaves, some confusion may be there due to suffering and due to not knowing what to do, and our dearest person is leaving, and for sure we will be disturbed. Srila Sridhar Maharaj will say, indeed we must be disturbed because the most beloved person has left, in one sense, of course. In another sense, he's just turning in manifest, if you will, so we can find him or her in a deeper place. Indeed, that's what Srila Sridhar Maharaj said to some of Prabhupada's disciples when they went to him after Prabhupada passed away. And they told Srila Sridhar Maharaj, our Guru Maharaj has passed away. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, okay, so now we will see who is a disciple of your Guru Maharaj. Those who were really serving him in his presence are the ones who will continue serving him in his physical absence. So the passing away of the spiritual master is a big test. It's a big invitation to go deeper into our discipleship. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj, when some devotees went to Srila Sridhar Maharaj, unfortunately in time, there was some, how to say, some opinions in which the devotee will say, but why? What's the need of going to someone else? It's not enough with Srila Prabhupada. Even some devotees will think, I cannot understand how you can have two gurus. Some good brothers told that to my Guru Maharaj. When he will say, who are you, Gurudev? And he said, may I reply in plural? May I follow Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami in the very first two words of Chaitanya Charitamrita?
Bande Guru.
Which are those first two words? Bande Gurun. That's in plural. I offer pranam to my gurus. So if you don't catch that point, the first two words of Chaitanya Charitamrita, probably you won't understand the whole of the 1,000 verses that come after.
Also, like in the Mangalacharan, Bandeham, Shri Guru. It's also plural.
So, indeed, Srila Sridhar Maharaj is famous to saying, our goal is to enter a land of gurus. The goal is to enter a place where everything is your guru. Of course, you have to begin somewhere. So at the beginning, at least, you have to have one guru. Because sometimes people will say, I don't want to accept one guru because I don't want to limit myself to one guru. But generally, that's an excuse not to have any guru at all. In the name of, I want to have everyone as my guru. But sometimes that's only lip service to the idea. Generally, we need one guru, and that one guru will show us there are more than one guru. And eventually, you will develop this universal vision. So sometimes my Guru Maharaj will say, how can you have two gurus? Srila Prabhupada, Srila Sridhar Maharaj. And my Guru Maharaj will reply, well, Srila Prabhupada had two gurus. Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta, he said, my Siksha Guru is Srila Sridhar Maharaj. So he had to. So if he can, I think it's not a problem, he will say. No? Like chuckling, like implying. Please read Chaitanya Charitamrita again. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj, of course, he was not only the Siksha Guru of my Gurudev, but the Siksha Guru, Diksha Guru, Sannyas Guru of so many others. He was the Sannyas Guru of Srila Bhakti Pragyan Kesav Goswami Maharaj, the Diksha Gurudev of Srila Narayan Maharaj. He was actually considered by most, like the most immediate authority after Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Most of them felt Srila Sridhar Maharaj is someone who knows so much the heart of our Gurudev. To say that one of the crucial moments in which Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta was captured by Srila Sridhar Maharaj was when Srila Sridhar Maharaj composed a prayer in praise of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhakti Vinod Viraha Dasakam. These are 10 verses in separation of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So he glorified that person who is the dearmost to Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta. Srila Sridhar Maharaj was very Sumedha Saha, very intelligent about how can I capture my Gurudev's heart fully. I'll glorify that person that has captured his heart fully. His Bhaktivinoda, his Gurudev, his father. So he composed this. And when Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta was reading this prayer, he asked, who wrote this? He didn't know. And someone said, Srila Sridhar Maharaj. Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta said, no. This was revealed by Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself. And then he said, after reading this, Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta said, I can leave my body. I'm quiet. I have no problem leaving my body at any moment, because I know that there is at least one person who has understood what I came to give. Of course, it doesn't mean he was the only one who understood, but he was praising Srila Sridhar Maharaj in this special way. This is this very famous, well-known pastime in which once Sri Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta had to install some deities. So the whole ceremony was organized, and Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta, was coming from another city by train. And in the temple there were people from the government, important people from society, other sampradayas, big event. So the whole ceremony started, and then came the part in the Pran Pratishtha, or the installing of the deities, in which the Acharya has to put Tulsi at the feet of Thakurji and invite Bhagavan to reside in that particular form. So that's supposed to be done by the Acharya. So Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta was supposed to do that, but he was still on the train. And at that time there was no WhatsApp to ask Gurudev how far you are, how long will it take. So they wait some time. They try to extend as much as they could the event to see if he was coming, but he was not coming. So his disciples didn't know what to do. So they went to Srila Sridhar Maharaj. Again, he was considered like whatever he says, it's what our Guru Maharaj will have said, something like this. And Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, no, better we continue ourselves with the ceremony. Guru Maharaj will be most pleased with that. So they say, okay, so you please, Maharaj, you are the senior devotee here. You do that part of the ceremony. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj did. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj, in the same way, he was not famous for being a melodious kirtaniya. He was neither famous for being expert in all the ritualistic details of how to perform this and that, which is something secondary. It's not that if you are super detailed and technical in everything, you must be more advanced. Sometimes it's the opposite. But Srila Sridhar Maharaj did this from the most essential place of his heart, no? Because Krishna was in his heart as he was inviting to manifest there. And technically speaking, the deity is an external manifestation of the heart of Sri Guru, of the sadhu who is inviting the deity to come. So we are seeing externally what is internal in the heart of the sadhu. Because as we always say, the sadhus are personifications of love for Krishna, and wherever there is love for Krishna, there is Krishna. Aham tishtami vaikunte inam hridaye subha tatrani tishtami narada kayanti chamam bhaktyaya. There are some different versions of the verse, but basically Krishna tells to Narada, "Oh Narada, I'm not in Vaikuntha, I'm not in the hearts of the yogis, but I'm in that place where one, two, or more of my devotees get together to sing about me. Udhayanta parashparam, katayantas shamam nityam, tusyanti charamanti cha, matchita madgata." That's the very definition of sadhu sangha given in the Gita, on one of the Chatur Shloki, 9th verse, 10th chapter. Krishna says, my devotees are absorbed in me, they get together to always speak about me, they enlighten one another speaking about me, and in this way they nourish each other and they provide bliss and delight to each other. Famous story of two devotees from the Ramanuja Sampradaya. Srila Sridhar Maharaj liked to share that story. The two of them, there were only two devotees, like in a cave, and it was raining like now. It was Chaturmasya, so this time of the year. So they couldn't go anywhere, so the two of them were just in a cave. So they started to, Upanishadic moment came. Secret, confidential conversation about the lore of their hearts. So after a few minutes of speaking intimately and sharing their hearts, one of them says, you know what? We are two here, but I'm perceiving the presence of a third person among us. And the other devotees say, I'm experiencing the same. And that third person is the person about which we are speaking about here now. So Krishna has become manifest in our katha. So the point is this, no? Krishna's love of Krishna is in the heart of the devotee, and wherever there is love of Krishna, Krishna has to be there. He cannot be there. He cannot not be there. Sadhavo hridayam mayam sadhunam hridayam tvaham madanyati na jananti naham tebhyo managapi. Krishna is saying, no? I'm in the hearts of I'm the hearts of my devotees, and they are my heart. I don't know anything apart from them. They do not know anything apart from me. Totally falling in love. I cannot see anything else. Love is blind. I only see my beloved. So wherever there's love of Krishna, Krishna is there. You follow the point? So as the song says, what is the song? Govinda, Govinda is residing in your heart. Vishram. Anyhow, Govinda is residing in the heart of the Vaishnava. So if Vaishnava is inviting Govinda, Bhagavan, to appear in one form, Govinda is already in the heart of that Vaishnava. So he extends his presence to that particular form. So, having made that important point, Srila Sridhar Maharaj invited Bhagavan to appear in the deity. Remember the story we were telling. So everything continued then. Deity was installed. So after some hours, Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta came. And eventually one devotee was telling Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta how the whole ceremony was conducted. And one devotee said, but Guru Maharaj, in the moment of Pran Pratishtha, when the deity was invoked to be present in the Bhagavan was invoked to be manifest in the form of Trimurti, not every single detail of the ritual was exactly perfectly followed. So some devotee was looking at that and checking. And he said, so I'm not sure if Krishna is actually present in the deity or not. So I would like to confirm that with you. But with good intention, he was not with bad intention, just like curious. And Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta replied in a very interesting way. He didn't ask which was the mistake in the ritual. He said, who was the person doing it? Like implying, I only need to know that. You tell me who did the mistake, and I will tell you how much Krishna is present there or not. So the reply was Srila Sridhar Maharaj. Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta had only one thing to say. No? Whatever a surrendered devotee does is always perfect. Okay. A surrendered devotee cannot commit any mistake. End of the conversation. You follow? So if the heart is in the right place, my Guru Maharaj will say, some details may be missing externally, but if the heart is in the right place, again, Baba Grahi Janardana, Krishna is accepting the banana peels of the wife of Vidura. Krishna is taking the essence of the offering. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj was such a person in the eyes of his Gurudev. No? So these are not disciples of him glorifying his Guru. This is his Guru glorifying his disciple. And this is not the only thing that Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta said about Srila Sridhar Maharaj. We can go on the whole day and night just saying what Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta said about Srila Sridhar Maharaj, or what Srila Prabhupada said about Srila Sridhar Maharaj. So many things. Prabhupada say things like, whatever I learned from Srila Sridhar Maharaj. They were so close to each other. Indeed, they lived together for 5 years in the same house. I had the chance of visiting that house last year in Kolkata. When Prabhupada was still a Grihastha, and he was writing his sketch of the Bhagavad Gita. He was living with Srila Sridhar Maharaj as a sannyasi, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj was writing his own commentary on Bhagavad Gita. And they will make programs, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj will preach, Srila Prabhupada will play the mridang and do kirtan. So they knew each other very intimately. You can imagine living together for 5-6 years. We are quite close. So Srila Siddhara Maharaj was like the very epitome, the very form of this principle of Siksha Guru. Again, he was Diksha Guru, Sannyas Guru of so many, but we could say his specialty was in giving shelter and relief and instruction to so many. And in one sense, this is especially the case with many disciples of other gurus, especially of Srila Prabhupada, who went to him in a moment of greatest need. So this began to happen right after Prabhupada passed away. So this was in 1978, 77 even, 78, this began to happen. So at that point, Srila Siddhara Maharaj was more than 80 years. He was totally blind from one eye and almost 80% blind from the second eye. At that time, mostly he wouldn't go out from his room. He will only go from his room to the veranda. And maybe once a year he will go down, because his room was like on a rooftop. He will go down once a year for Gaur Punim or for Vyasa Puja. He was assisted because he could no longer almost walk or move or see. So my point is, he was in a very precarious situation, physically speaking. But nonetheless, these young boys will go to him, Prabhupada disciples and others, and he will give to them twice a day darshan for hours. And he will become so fired up, as we, I think, say the other day. Because also these boys had so much faith and so much enthusiasm in Krishna consciousness. Also, they require so much guidance because they were relatively new. The senior most devotee had maybe 10 years of practicing. In those times, some Prabhupada disciples told me that, when they went to the temple, a senior devotee meant, he's practicing for 6 months. Because everyone was new. So a very old devotee will have 1 year of practice or something. So in one sense, now we are very fortunate. We are joining the movement and we have devotees who are practicing for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Like I was here, my guru actually yesterday telling, half a century I've been practicing. So wow, okay. So the point is, all these new bhaktas will come with such enthusiasm and sincerity. And Srila Siddhara liked a lot sincerity. He always will emphasize this idea: sincerity is invincible. That's his own version of one line of the Gita. Sincerity is invincible. If you are sincere, there's nothing that can defeat you. And he will speak so many new things during those years, almost 10 years, that he remained alive. He passed away on 1988. And as we said the other day, his personal servant and eventual successor Acharya, Sripad Bhakti Sundar Govinda Maharaj, he will tell the disciples of Prabhupada, I've been hearing from Guru Maharaj for the last 40 years or more, and I never heard him saying all these new things that are coming from him now, when he's speaking to you. So the implication of that is the sincerity of your questions is bringing out so much new realization from the heart of Gurudev. So you are doing your 50%, he told me. And Srila Siddhara Maharaj says, new gems are coming from the bottom of the ocean of his heart and exploding them. So I'm not so sure how much the ones present here, all of you, know Srila Siddhara Maharaj's message, mood. Of course, we have it here. He's there in our altar, here and there, in both directions. But his style is very unique. Of course, that's a picture from the veranda of his room, as he mentioned. There's no other place you will see. All the pictures and videos you will see from him mostly are from that place. And that's a very beautiful place. Now, I had every time I go to Navadvip, I go to Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat. That's his mat, which is in Koladvip, one of the 9 islands of Navadvip. And his room is, you have to do some journey. It's Upanishadic, it's secret. But you can, when you reach there, you can feel his presence. You can feel his presence so much there. So many things happen in that room. For more than 10 years, so much was going on in that specific spot in a very condensed way. So you go to his room, apart from seeing his bed, his clothes, his remnants, the veranda, his chair, the pictures, he's there living eternally, if you will. So interestingly, he founded his mission. It was not his idea to found a mission. Again, if you get to know a little bit the life of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, you realize he was a totally low-profile personality. How do you say in English? Like unpretentious. Thank you. No? Not looking for any attention. Totally humble. Everyone said that he was born. When I heard that one, it was like, wow. To say that he was born without pratishtha. I'm praying to die with a little less of pratishtha. But he was born without it. So that already speaks about which was the foundation. From that basis onward. Without pratishtha, what comes after that? Pratishtha means this desire for position, name, fame. Here I am. Put the spotlight here a little bit more on me. He had nothing of that. But he had all good qualities. So when you have someone with all good qualities plus extreme humility, that combination is very sweet. Someone with lots of knowledge, but extreme humility at the same time. That's not so easy to find. You can find someone with lots of knowledge and with lots of pride because of that lots of knowledge.
Do we know who he was in the previous life?
Do we know?
Yeah. Or did he know and shared it? Because he came.
Not that I know, at least in a public way, because again, his mood was so much low profile that he's not the type of person he will speak about those things. I will say that mostly. Maybe in some confidential talk with someone, but generally he was more like. So, which was my point that I was saying. So he was born without pratishtha. He had full knowledge. Srila Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta gave a title to him. He will used to give titles to his disciples. Not only the titles like when given sannyas, like Bhakti Rakshak, which is already a lot. Bhakti Rakshak means guardian of devotion, protector of bhakti. So that was the name given to Srila Sridhar Maharaj. But the title he gave was Shastra Nipun. So Shastra Nipun is a term that basically means, it refers to someone who is a scriptural genius, who does not only know Shastra in theory, but who has such a grasp and understanding of the essence of Shastra that they can explain that in ways that nobody else explained them before. And Srila Sridhara was famous for that. He will present the ancient truths in ever new fresh language with never new layers of proof. And in such a poetic way. I remember I was astonished when I read from Srila Sridhara's first time. When I joined the ashram, this was in 1999, so like 23 years ago.
99 war
And I had the great
23
fortune of knowing about Srila Prabhupada and Srila Siddhartha Maharaj at the very same time from day one.
gleichzeitig von Tag
So for me, Srila Siddhartha Maharaj was there immediately.
sofort.
And I felt so much charmed by his mode and style.
Bezaubert von seinem Art, sich auszudrücken.
But when I used to read his books,
Wenn ich seine Bücher las,
in the beginning, I didn't know the background of those
Anfang
books.
kannte ich den
So I thought,
Hintergrund von den Büchern.
wow, this is so nicely written.
Das ist so schön.
This must have taken time to sit and think and write all the things that are here in these books.
Lange daran gefeilt haben.
And there were one book after another. In Spanish, we had a compilation of all of his main books in one single book.
Wir hatten
It was like 1,000 and something pages. So you can imagine. And then after some time, I got to know he didn't write any of those books.
Kein einziges dieser Bücher geschrieben.
All the things were things he was just speaking spontaneously.
Das war alles
Someone was recording and then typing.
spontan gesagt.
He was not sitting and thinking what to say.
Rekorder
He was just
geschrieben.
saying it.
Einfach so gesprochen, wie ein Buch.
Of course, he wrote some compositions, some songs, some poetry, unique in Sanskrit. He was a very
Einzigartig
expert pundit in Sanskrit.
großer Experte.
Very famous ones, to Sri Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta, to Mahaprabhu, Prema Dhamma Deva Stot, so many, beautiful.
Schöne Gebete zu.
So when he wanted to write, he could do that also.
Wenn
But
schreiben
most
wollte,
of the things we know were just like,
weißt du, was wir von ihm kennen?
so he will speak as if he's writing.
Hat so gesprochen, wie andere manchmal schreiben.
You don't find that very easily. That level of flow,
Die
of poetry, of charm.
Fluss, Poesie,
And he spoke very good English also.
sprach auch einfach
So he was very ideal person to deal with a Western audience,
Also ideal dafür geeignet.
to give shelter and guidance to them. He knew their DNA, if you will. So he could convey the ancient Indian Vedic tradition, if you will, also in a Western packaging, which is something relative. But if that's not in place, sometimes that may affect the absolute side of our faith. You follow my point? Maybe your acharya is an Uttam Mahabhagavat, but maybe on a cultural relative level, there are lots of difference between him and you. Maybe your guru is whatever, some sadhu Babaji living in a cave in Govardhan who never took a step out of Braj, and you were born in Zurich or something like that, and you're dealing with other realities, no? Mind, psychology, culture, language. So, of course, it doesn't mean that you won't be able to derive any benefit from that person, but in certain points, you may feel that you are not able to fully understand, or the other person is not able to fully understand some situations you are living in, because you are coming from another planet, basically. Srila Prabhupada said that when he went to the West for the first time, he will write one letter to Srila Narayana Maharaj saying he was in New York. So that was a pretty, from Radha Damodar to New York, that's a pretty good contrast. He didn't came to the mountains here in Switzerland. It's kind of in between, but right to New York. So that's exact antithesis of Vrindavan, at least of Vrindavan at that time. Now Vrindavan may seem more like New York nowadays. No, lots of likes and noises externally. So Srila Prabhupada will say in the letter, during night, all the lights are on here. Like in Chamatkar, he will say that, like, at night, when one is supposed to be sleeping, the whole city is awakened. And of course, New York is known as such, the city that never sleeps. And then he will say, and everyone has a car here. And not only that, but they drive the car themselves. Because at that time in India, if you have the car if you are a rich person. And if you were a rich person with a car, you had a chauffeur also. Nobody will drive their own car. You follow? But in the States, everyone has a car and everyone was driving it. So Prabhupada was like, what's going on here? It's like I'm landing into another planet. No? So that's a relative thing, but he paid attention to that when he tried to address the audience. No? And he gradually started to grasp and to know and so on, as much as he could. So, for example, Srila Sanatana Goswami in his Hari Bhakti Vilas, he also says, and you have to understand this point. He says, if you are a Sudra by birth, probably the best thing for you is to accept the Sudra Guru. Or if you are Brahmin, probably to accept the Brahmin Guru. He's not making this as an absolute statement, but he's making this point. Every person in the Varnas have a particular psychology. So it may help you that your guru has a similar psychology than you. It may help for you to relate better to his intention, his mood. You follow my point? Because if not, I don't know. Maybe your guru is Indian and may speak strongly about something, and you may think, oh, he's angry with me or something. I don't know, it's just his nature. But your faith may be disturbed by this cultural baggage, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur will call it. So anyhow, my point was that Srila Siddhar Maharaj was a Shastra Nipun. That he could present Shastra in a very contemporary way. He studied Western philosophy being young, so he will draw these examples, quote Hegel, and speak about Einstein and these Western personalities, Schopenhauer, and so on. So, and Shastra Nipun, interestingly, is also one term that Rupa Goswami uses in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Shastra Nipun, which he refers to an Uttam Adhikari. A Kanishta Adhikari does know Shastra too much, and his faith is still Komal Shraddha, is tender. A Madhyam will have strong faith and will have more knowledge than the Kanishta, but not that much knowledge. But an Uttam, he will have very strong faith and Shastra Nipun. He will know Shastra from up to down, west to east, north to south. And again, not like copy-paste. No? The follow, because it's comparatively easy to memorize the whole thing. But to grasp the essence, comparatively easier. I didn't say totally easy. It's comparatively easier to memorize the thing than to grasp the essence of that thing, practice that, live there, and know how to present that according to time, place, and circumstance. Desha Kala Bibaba, say the Bhagavatam. You have to become a knower of Desha Kala, time, place, circumstance. That's very important. So Srila Siddhar Maharaj has such knowledge, but he was born without pratishtha. So try to imagine this, how powerful is this combination. No? So I was saying this because in the context of he was never willing to have a mission. Indeed, when Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta passed from this world, some problems were there as usual when every great personality passes. And Srila Siddhar Maharaj, in his mood, he kind of retired from the whole situation. And he went to Ek Chakra, which is the land where Nityananda Prabhu was born. The land of extreme mercy. And the land of Akhanda Guru Tattva. Of the undivisible principle of Sri Guru. So there were some complex situations in the math regarding the passing of Sri Guru. So Srila Maharaj, I will go to the land of our original Guru and beg for mercy there. I would like to dedicate myself to a life of bhajan. No? He had this bhajananandi tendency. He could be the whole day, as my Guru Maharaj likes to say. Srila Maharaj knew a lot of verses, but he would like to contemplate a few verses for eternity. And he will continue thinking about, and after 20 years, and he's continuing like, he can quote all the other verses as well, but he could become captured in one direction, and he could be the whole day just like experiencing sacred wonder. He didn't have a need of, I need an audience so they may fire me up. They, of course, when there was a sincere audience, he was fired up, but he could be by himself, lost in contemplation. He had that adhikar. He was an introspective person, and introverted in his own personality. He was not like Srila Prabhupada, like let's lead the world mission and conquer the world. Which again, it's not better or worse, it's just different personalities. And we have to understand those things. It's not that, he's not a preacher, he's lower, or he's lower because he's a preacher, he's not a Bhajananandi. No? Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta will say a Goshtyanandi, or a preacher, although that's not the exact word, but anyhow, a Goshtyanandi is a Bhajananandi who preaches. So even if you are preaching, that is not an excuse to do not engage in bhajan. As we said the other day, Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta was such a Goshtyanandi. He established this huge mission, but before starting that, he chanted 1 billion names, Satakoti Nam Yaknya, which means he sat and chanted 3 lakhs every day for 10 years, basically. And then he said, maybe it's the time to preach now. He didn't think after 1 week in the temple, okay, I will go to preach and convince others about bhakti. He thought, I think I need to be convinced myself. Let's put myself to test. Let's sit for 10 years chanting 92 rounds per day. And then let's see if I'm fit for preaching. So to say that when he was finishing his last round of the whole vow, because it's a vow to complete in 1 decade, that's not a joke. No? We generally take a vow to complete. I make this vow for Ekadasi, for Chaturmasya, for Kartik, 1 month, a few months. It was 1 decade. Non-stop, no failing. No? I mean, he was determined. We need some switching. Okay. We have 10 seconds of recreation. So Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta made this vow, and it is said that when he chanted the last Maha Mantra of the last round, the last day, one verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita came flying in a piece of paper.
What came flying?
A piece of paper with a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Oh,
So he was meditating, how can my Gurudev Bhaktivinoda Thakur asked me to spread the message of Mahaprabhu. How to do that? So he engaged in 1 decade, Brata, for knowing how to do that. No, it's not that your Guru gives you an instruction, okay, Gurudev, in 5 minutes it's ready. No, he felt I need a decade to think deeply how to do that properly. So when he finished the vow, this verse is coming, flying. You generally don't receive flying verses of Chaitanya Charitamrita. And in that verse is in Mahaprabhu's instruction to the Goswamis. Now go to Vrindavan, establish temples, establish worship of the deity, write devotional books, and teach Vaishnava Sadachar, behavior, proper behavior. So he felt, okay, these are the foundations of my mission. So then he woke up after 10 years. He woke up from his bhajan. He began his mission. So he was a Goshyanandi, but he had this background of Bhajananandi. You cannot sit for Sat Koti Nam Yagna if you are not a Bhajananandi. So Srila Siddhara Maharaj was similarly a deep Bhajananandi. So after the mission was in this conflict, he went to Nityananda Prabhu's land to obtain mercy from him and for him to give residence, for Nityananda Prabhu to give Srila Siddhara Maharaj residence in the abode of Navadvip. Mahaprabhu, Srila Siddhara Maharaj was always very attracted to Mahaprabhu. And in his humility, he felt, my place to stay is the land of Mahaprabhu, which is not different from Braj, but with the added dose of mercy. So he started to pray Nityananda Prabhu, give me mercy, give me mercy. And it is said that at that moment he had an epiphany, a revelation. He was praying to Nityananda Prabhu for mercy, and Nityananda Prabhu replied to him, oh, you are praying for my mercy, but you are not willing to give mercy to anyone? No? Because at that point already many devotees wanted to take shelter in Srila Siddhara Maharaj after Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta left. But he was not accepting disciples. He was like, let's say 40 something. Yeah, he accepted initiation when he was like in his early 30s. So he spent like 10 and a little bit more than the decade with his Guru Maharaj. So let's say 40 something. But he was refusing. No. Who I am? I'm in humility, not escaping from responsibility, but just in deep humility. So he was praying to Nitai, give me mercy. Nitai Chan. Maybe. Okay. So Nitai told him, so you are asking mercy or you are not willing to give mercy? Like implying, you want my mercy, but you have to give mercy as well. So Srila Siddhara Maharaj make a contract with Nityananda Prabhu. So he said, okay, let's do like this. Because he said, that's the only way you can come and live in this land. No? Navadvip and so on. Srila Maharaj said, okay, my nature is not to go and try to capture people, and bring people to me. But if someone comes to me without me looking for them, then I'll accept them. But I won't be looking people to create a mission. That's not my nature. So Nityananda Prabhu said, Acha. So that was the contract. So Srila Siddhara Maharaj began to do his bhajan in Navadvip. And again, he was so special that naturally some people was drawn to him. So some disciples came, some disciples want to live with him, but he was just living in one little cottage there. So the necessity came, okay, I think we have to build some rooms for them and some temple, and the deity has to be established. So gradually he formed a mission, although that was not his plan. He's not a managerial person. Indeed, Srila Prabhupada many times expressed, I would like to make Srila Siddhara Maharaj the president of my institution. He even told to Prabhupada, to Srila Siddhara Maharaj, I can construct a house for you in Mayapur and you can reside there. And even I will put a lift, because for him it was difficult to move. So we can have a lift if you need to go up and down, and the boats can go and have darshan of you there. You don't have to do anything. We will bring everything to your feet. Srila Prabhupada really wanted Srila Siddhara Maharaj there. But again, Srila Siddhara Maharaj was more like, he was not pushing for that. He was more pushing back in that direction. He preferred the more isolated, like quiet life. Even if you go now to his Chaitanya Saraswat Math, that's a very quiet place. It's not like it's more like in the middle of the jungle or something. Now it's more, there are more construction, but at that time it was kind of the midst of the jungle, basically. Still, you see lots of palm trees and things like this. You can have a vision of before all this construction was there was just a jungle and one bhajan kutir in the middle of that. So in this way, Srila Sridhar Maharaj gradually started his Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Math. But again, he was never someone too much in the external expansion, but more in the internal expansion. And his whole life was marked by this spirit, basically. So they say he was born in Hapania, that's in Bengal. He was born in a very aristocratic, Brahminical family. So from a material point of view, he was born he had a very high birth. Again, another reason to be proud of in India. I'm a Brahmin. I'm very Paka Brahmin lineage. I'm very pious from birth. All his family was devoted. And he always mentioned that in the beginning he was very much attached to our Ramachandra. Because Ramachandra was so much, he expressed this sense of morality and correctness and truthfulness and the truth and everything in the proper place. Now, it said Srila Sridhar Maharaj never told a lie in his whole life. It was like unthinkable for him. Like, how such a thing could be done? Truth is everything. You know? So he himself said that the very first times that he became familiar with Krishna and the Braja Lila, for him it was difficult to process because he had so much attractions to the Maryad of Ram, not to the everything legal, if you will. And Krishna seemed to be exactly the opposite. Of course, in time he realized, this is hyper legal. And eventually he discovered Mahaprabhu. And he became even more attracted. This was a very unique feature of the presentation of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, especially for those who came before connected with Srila Prabhupada. Almost all of them will tell you this thing. When hearing from Srila Prabhupada, the main emphasis was Krishna. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God. For proper reason, for sure. Well, when they went to Mahaprabhu, to Srila Sridhar Maharaj, the emphasis shift. And now they found a twofold different emphasis. Mahaprabhu, Sri Radha. Mahaprabhu, Sri Radha. That was the main emphasis of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. Of course, it's not that he will not speak about Krishna, but he has this special attraction to Krishna as Mahaprabhu in the mood of Radha, and to the dedication of Sri Radha, the disposition of sacrifice in love, the self-forgetfulness in divine love. He will become like captured by these ideals. Again, he could be speaking for hours, yes. So in the beginning, for some of the Prabhupada disciples, they had to accommodate that because they were accustomed to a certain mood and emphasis. Indeed, some devotees, unfortunately, they were not able to appreciate Srila Sridhar Maharaj's contribution. I once heard that one of them, when they were asked why you stopped going to Srila Sridhar Maharaj, and he said, because what he was saying was different from what Prabhupada said. And the point is, of course, because he was not Srila Prabhupada. Of course, there were be similar things, but there are different individuals. So they will say different things in different ways. No? That's a good symptom. No? I mean, it makes no sense. I will only
go to hear from Srila Siddharara if he exactly says everything as Srila Prabhupada said. For that, I go and put a tape of Srila Prabhupada. I read a book of Prabhupada. That's there. And Prabhupada knew Srila Siddharara Maharaj. He lived with him for years. So he knew which was the emphasis, the style, the mood of Srila Siddharara Maharaj. And he sent his disciples, go there. So he knew he wanted to expose them to that experience, to that difference. That difference may complement and nourish what they were receiving from Srila Prabhupada. So some unfortunately were not able to accommodate that, at least in the beginning. But some others actually felt Prabhupada is present here again. No? My Guru Maharaj once told me that before meeting Srila Siddharara Maharaj, he met him through his books. So the very first book he read from Srila Siddharara Maharaj probably is the very first book that most of the devotees who read Srila Siddharara Maharaj is the first. Okay, we are on the same page. Which was a special important book for that time. That's a compilation of all the discourses Srila Siddharara spoke to Prabhupada disciples when they went to Srila Siddharara after Prabhupada passed away, asking him what to do now. And he's instructing them on Guru Tattva. Very wonderful book. All of you recommended to read it. And if you already read it, please. Please. I'm sure you will never feel this is the same book. These are the books you can read once every year, at least, and you will find, wow, did I read this book before?
You have it even on the website or in German.
Okay, so you have no excuse. Sri Guru and His Grace. Yeah, it's available online also in many languages. So the point is, my Guru Maharaj was given this book, but at that time my Guru Maharaj was in ISKCON Prabhupada Society, and at that time, unfortunately, there was this tendency that Srila Siddharara Maharaj, we shouldn't read him. So why my Guru Maharaj was given the book Srila Siddharara Maharaj? Because they gave to him saying, Tripurari Maharaj, you understand philosophy good, probably. So please read this book and find all the deviations here. So we have a better reasons to make our case against Srila Siddharara Maharaj. So my Guru Maharaj took the book and started to read and started to cry. Because he felt, here is Srila Prabhupada is here. That's the universality of Guru Tattva. He may appear through different individuals. That's called Vyasti. But there is a universal principle of the same department called Samasti. So the universal agency of Guru Tattva will come to our lives through different individuals. And even there are different persons, different individuals, they are represented the same agency. So if we are open and receptive, we will feel, in one sense, there is no difference. So my Guru Maharaj felt that, no? Yeah, exactly. This is the plurality of gurus. So when he met Srila Siddharara Maharaj in person again, he was crying, feeling, he will feel, nobody apart from Srila Prabhupada can make me feel like this. No? Nobody apart from my Gurudev have moved my heart in this way. So my Gurudev is appearing here again in this form. So that's how it works. So it's important that we also have those types of confirmations in our heart. And we are also open and doing our 50% as students. Remember that part. So in this way, Srila Siddharara, I don't know how did I connect one thing with the other. But, I was mentioning about his emphasis, difference of emphasis between Radha and Mahaprabhu and Krishna. So he made a lot of contributions to our Gaudiya community in terms of his new insights and realizations. For example, he wrote a very unique commentary on the Brahma Gayatri, which generally in Vedic tradition is seen as a mantra pointing at the sun worship. But he expressed each of the words, explained it in such a way that shown this is pointing to Radha Dasyam. And of course, again, he was an expert Sanskrit, so he knew how to connect the meanings of the words. And he will also present the reality of Mahaprabhu in unique ways. There's a very beautiful book compiled about his teachings on Mahaprabhu also. Which are very, the name says it all, basically, right?
Every name of his book is like...
Yeah. Let's share some of the names of his books. Just those are enchanting by themselves. The Sri Guru and His Grace, Golden Volcano of Divine Love. That's about Mahaprabhu. Yeah, those are there.
Loving Search
For the Lost Servant. That's a nice one, because first he wrote, it was published one book called In Search of Sri Krishna, Reality the Beautiful. So it's kind of pointing to how one is looking for Krishna. But then Srila Sivana says, but that's not enough. We have to also emphasize how Krishna is looking for his devotees. So then came this other title. You will repeat it in German? Okay, and that title has like 4 parts, 4 volumes of that book. And many other books in the same direction. Subjective evolution of consciousness, home comfort, absolute harmony,
path of the angel,
the path of the angels, encounters with divinity. I like this. That's only the title of the book. You can imagine what's inside there. So, and as we were speaking today with Krishna Chandra Prabhu during lunch, maybe I'll conclude with this important point. Because sometimes, and this in connection to this idea of Shastra Nipun again. Sometimes we think that, okay, being a member of the Parampara means I just do copy paste of what I heard from my acharyas, and I repeat that, which is okay to begin with. You have to begin somewhere. In the beginning, we'll be like parroting Parampara, copy paste parroting. How do you say parrot in German? Papagayo? Oh, we have papagayo in Spanish. That's a similar species. So that was one level of parroting. Copy paste. But in time, you are expected to become another form of parrot. Sukha Mukha Amrita Drava Samjitam. You have to become like Sukadev, which is say that a parrot can bite the fruit, and with its beak, it's making the fruit sweeter. So that's very different from just repeating, but adding sweetness. So that's another way of parroting, following the footsteps of Sukadev Goswami. So ideally, we members of the Parampara are expected to upgrade our parrotness, our sukhatva. So not only repeat the same thing we heard, but add our own realizations to that. Like Krishna Chandra Prabhu was telling me today, some devotees pray, and their prayer is repeating the prayers written by others, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Narottam Das Thakur, which is beautiful. No, they are sharing their hearts, their experience. But at one point, both Bhaktivinoda and Narottam will ask you, and which are your prayers? It's not enough just to repeat what I wrote and sang. You have to develop your own language and mode of praying to Bhagavan. You are an individual. So you have to offer your individuality for the pleasure of Krishna. In Jungian terms, this will be called individuation. You have to become as much of an individual as you can become. Because if you are not doing that job, if you are not developing your personal side, your individuality, that's a form of impersonalism. So impersonalism is not just about saying aham brahmasmi, so neti neti. No. You can be an individual, but you can not be thinking for yourself, feeling for yourself, just doing copy paste of what others are doing, and following the masses, becoming like one mediocre voice, and whatever the others do, okay, I go. But you are not becoming an individual. And to serve Krishna in eternity, you have to offer your individuality. That's what you can offer. So the point is, at some point in our practice, we need to develop our own realizations, our own prayers, on the basis of what our acharyas have given to us, of course. Be independent to them. We should become independent. Srila Prabhupada will say, I want you to become independently thinking people. My Guru Maharaj likes to say, the Guru doesn't teach the disciples what to think. The Guru teaches the disciple how to think. When you know how to think, you will know what to think by yourself. Again, maybe in the beginning one needs to be told everything. You do like this, you don't think like that, do like this. Okay, daddy. No? Like a boy of 3 years, 4 years, you cannot think too much for yourself. If you give too much independence to a 3-month baby, he will jump on the mountain and who knows what. But in time, the idea is, on the basis of dependence, you become independent in a healthy way.
And you said something that Gurudev said, that you should even surpass your Guru. This is a heretic statement.
It's already online, so we have to explain it. So in which context my Gurudev said that? Remember, we have to put everything in context. You don't want to see me crucified, please. Nor Krishna Chandra. So once my Guru Maharaj will say, in some missions, the idea will be, you can only say as much as your Gurudev said, or ideally less. And only then you are qualified. No? Only what Prabhupada said you can repeat. Or better, even better, less. And then you are qualified. And my Guru Maharaj said, no, you have to say more. But not more because you are more qualified than your Guru. Not because you are surpassing your Guru independently, but because by his grace or her grace, you can say something more. Some new realizations will come. That's parampara. Every member of the parampara has to contribute with their own realizations. It's not just like, oh no, I'm so fallen that I can only repeat what my Gurudev said. That's false humility. Humility can disguise, the opposite of humility can disguise in the form of humility. You can be complacent, conformist, mediocre, but oh no, I'm so fallen. Only what my Gurudev said. And it seems that you are glorifying your Guru by saying that. But actually, you are rendering a disservice to your guru.
Een gegendienst.
And you are going against the current of parampara.
Du gehst gegen den ganzen Geist der Parampara.
Current of parampara means they will always be coming something new.
Der Geist der Parampara ist immer etwas Neues noch.
So we all want to be there for that.
So, da möchten wir sein.
Hey, the famous example is the Bhagavatam.
Das berühmte Beispiel ist das Bhagavatam.
Sukadev Goswami speaking Bhagavat.
Rabbi sagt, spricht Bhagavatam.
Who is in the audience, apart from Parikshit Maharaj?
Wer ist noch in der Audienz?
Who is sit on the first row?
Wer sitzt in der ersten Reihe? Sutta Goswami.
Sutta Goswami. Who else?
Wer sitzt da noch?
Who is the guru of Sukadev Goswami?
Oh, wer ist der Guru von Sri
His father,
Vyasa.
Vyasa. He was there.
Vyasa war auch da.
It's not that Vyasa said, oh, my disciple is speaking. I'm his guru. I don't have anything to learn from him.
Von dem habe ich nichts zu
He was
lernen.
there,
Sitzt auch in
taking
der ersten
notes.
Reihe und nimmt Notizen.
like Bruno these days.
Mhm.
He wrote like a whole book of notes.
Er hat ein Notizbuch gemacht.
And not only Vyasa was there.
Aber nicht nur Vyasa war da.
Vyasa is Sukadev's guru. He was there.
Vyasa ist der Guru von Shukadev.
Vyasa's guru, Narad Muni, was there.
Und Narad Muni, der Guru von seinem Guru.
So the guru of the speaker, Sukadev, were listening.
Die sitzen alle da und hören.
Because they know this is parampara.
Das ist Parampara.
No? If
Er spricht, jetzt kommt noch mehr.
if each member of the parampara is sincere,
Wenn die aufrichtig sind,
something new, exciting will come from there.
aus ihrer Gnade
We
kommt etwas
cannot
Neues.
miss that.
Und das möchten wir nicht verpassen.
So you follow my point. They were not thinking, oh, Sukadev is junior to us. He cannot tell anything new. We are to teach him.
Wir müssen ihn,
A real guru will never think like that.
einen richtigen Guru,
A real guru is the best of disciples.
ein richtiger Guru ist der beste Schüler.
That's why we have to use Guru Sisya Parampara. It's not only Guru Parampara.
Das ist nicht Guru Parampara.
Sisya is a very important word, disciple.
Das ist Schüler.
Actually, every guru feels himself, herself a disciple.
Weil jeder Guru fühlt sich immer als Schüler.
Srila Sri Maharaj will say that.
Srila Maharaj sagt,
He will say, in this school,
in dieser Schule
we are students forever.
bleiben wir Schüler für immer.
There's no point that you say, I'm no longer a student now. I'm a teacher. It's not happening. Because we are exploring the infinite. So there's no point that you will end up exploring that. The more you get closer to the infinite, the more infinite it becomes. So the smaller you will feel. The smaller you will feel. No? The less you will claim, I'm almost catching it.
Oh, jetzt habe ich es dann bald.
As he will say, Sister Maharaj will say, the closer you get to the infinite,
Je mehr du zum Unbegrenzten
the more you will realize there's no limit for how much progress we can make.
kein Limit und Einschränkung, wie viel Fortschritt es
So in that sense, my Guru Maharaj will say, in service to my Gurudev,
in Dienst zu meinem Gurudev
I will say more.
sage ich noch mehr, als mein Gurudev gesagt hat.
Because by his grace, I will be empowered to say something more.
Ermächtigt, noch mehr zu sagen.
Kali Kalera Dharma Krishna Nam Sankirtan Krishna Shakti Vinanahi Hare Pravartana. Chaitanya Chaitanya said, if you want to establish Harinam Sankirtan, to share
Den heiligen Namen,
the gift of Mahaprabhu, Krishna Shakti Vinanahi Hare Pravartana. Without Krishna Shakti, this cannot
du
happen.
musst ermächtigt sein von Krishna.
Without being empowered, you cannot share anything.
Sonst kannst du niemand etwas offenbaren.
So if you feel the empowered coming, the empowerment coming,
Das kommt,
you have to honor that sharing something.
das irgendwie mitteilen.
So in that spirit, I will be saying more than my Gurudev.
Am Himmel Geist, du musst noch mehr.
But I will never feel that I'm more than my Gurudev.
Niemand denkt, dass ich besser
Actually,
bin
I
als
will be
Gurudev.
feeling he's saying more than what he said before through me.
Oder sagt jetzt mehr, aber durch mich.
So I'm taking this bold position, sitting here in this fancy seat, opening my mouth, but all in his service.
Aber es ist im Dienst zu ihm.
So that's the highest humility than
Die
saying,
höchste
oh, I cannot say anything, I'm so fallen.
Oh, ich kann das nicht sagen, ich bin nur gefallen.
Do you follow the point?
Könnt ihr das nachvollziehen?
So this is very important. And again,
Ganz wichtig.
and Srila Samaras was very unique
Und Srila
in
Maharaj
extending
hat
the contribution of his Gurudev.
hat das, was sein Gurudev gegeben hat, ausgedehnt.
He was already famous at the time of his Gurudev
War schon bekannt zur Zeit,
for being able to extend the meaning of his Gurudev's words.
dass die Bedeutung von seinem Gurudevs Wort
When-
noch ausdehnen konnte.
When Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta will speak Harikatha,
Als Präsident Harikata gesprochen hat,
maybe if you are familiar with some of his writings and discourses,
dann sind wir vielleicht
some of them were a little bit like complex and dense to follow. The way he expressed were like sometimes pretty terse, difficult to. He's saying that better than me in German. So at the end of the lecture, many people or even many disciples of Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta will go to Srila Sridhar Maharaj and ask him, please give us the essence of what Gurudev said. So he will share the same thing, but in his own words, extending that, showing the depth of what his Gurudev said, but at the same time making it accessible and understandable for everyone. All in the service to his Gurudev. So this was like the signature mark of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. You give something to him and he will like extend and expand and extract. And with that show to you the unlimited nature of the subject matter we are talking about. So he's, in this sense, he's a very, very, very like specifically, yeah, like very specific figure of what a guru is. Someone who is constantly contributing with new realizations and keeping the tradition alive and fresh and dynamic and progressive. He likes so much all these words. and that was challenging because you were hearing those discourses and you had to do something with that. But that was the beauty and the charm of having someone like him. So in that way, today we are celebrating having someone like him in our lives, in our altar, which hopefully means in our hearts, because the altar is a representation of our hearts, where we want our heart to be. So our divine inspiration is to even serve personalities like Sridhar Sridhar Maharaj for eternity. Nitya Navadev, you will there along with our Gurudev, other Param Gurudevs and so on. So this is the trying to make full circle and going back to the beginning words of Krishna Chandra Prabhu. This is how we go to conceive all the things without duality. There's no birth and death. And even we can relate with someone like Srila Sridhar Maharaj now and forever. If we want that. He's generous enough to give us his association. And he's already waiting for us there. So better we take it seriously so we can gain his association. Of course, he's here as well with us. So we can take advantage of his association now in the form of his discourses, teaching, life, example, students, servants. So in this way, today we are focusing in this particular personality, and of course, throughout our year, we are always celebrating these appearances, so many personalities. So each one of them are showing a very unique approach to the divine, like a multifaceted jewel with different ways of shining. And sometimes the devotees may say, oh, today is the appearance day of, I don't know, Jagadananda Pandit. And someone may say, oh, it's not so important. It's not Gopurnam, not Janmashtami, not Radhastami. So who is this Kolabech, Sridhar, Jagadananda? This not so important, so no need to know them. Srila Sridhar Maharaj. We shouldn't think like this. Because each one of these personalities are embodiments
sind Verkörperungen
of divine love.
von göttlicher Liebe.
And our goal is divine love.
Und unser Ziel ist ja nicht Gott,
So
die göttliche
if
Liebe.
my goal is divine love,
Wenn das Ziel göttliche Liebe ist,
and today is the disappearance or appearance of someone who is the personification of divine love,
der Erscheinungsverlust von einer Person, die die
means that the goal of my life is taking shape and appearing in front of me.
Also, diese göttliche Liebe heißt, hat Gestalt angenommen.
So if I'm interested in attaining divine love as the goal of my life,
Und ich habe diese göttliche Liebe als das Ziel meines Lebens.
I will be interested in knowing about the life of those who are the personification of that goal.
Möchte ich doch das Leben und alles kennen von denen, die personifizieren diese göttliche Liebe.
Each and every of them.
Und zwar jeder einzelne von ihnen.
You follow my point? So that's why we have all the celebrations in our Panjik and our Vaishnava calendar.
In Vaishnava-Kalender so viele Erscheinungen.
And we should take the time to know about their life and teachings
Zeit nehmen über ihr Leben.
and love.
Lieben lernen.
And pray to them in a day like today.
Und wir beten
We can conclude our kata with this some inner intimate personal prayer to someone like SRILA Maharaj today,
ein Gebet zwischen uns,
so he may bless us
dass uns jetzt doch segnen möge.
with all that he is,
Mit all dem,
with his wisdom, with his lack of pratishtha, with his
mit dem
loyalty to Mahaprabhu and Sri Radha,
Punata,
with his Shastra Nipunata, with his capacity to present the essence of revelation in dynamic way.
von heiliger Offenbarung.
So we can also become active, loyal, dynamic members of the Gaudiya Sampradaya.
Aktive, lebendige Mitglieder
And we can represent Mahaprabhu and his agents in a proper way to the world, to other devotees, and to ourselves also in service. So may a day like today's, Srila Bhakti Goswami Maharaj shower us with his unlimited kindness, mercy. So we pray for his blessings at his divine feet and that of all his sincere followers. Srila Bhakti Rakhaksar Goswami Maharaj ki TIROBHAVA Mahotsava Titi Srila SRIDHARA Maharaj ki Gaur Premanand Hari Om. So before concluding, and after our prayer to Srila Bhakti Rakhaksar Goswami, I don't know if there are any concluding remarks, questions, commentaries you may like to share before we put our session to rest.
Bevor wir unsere Session beenden. Thema noch etwas?
A lot to process. Okay. You would like to close with some words, Krishna Chandra Prabhu, something, some reflection, something?
No, I want to
With your permission.
we just want maybe you can, this point is so I feel it's so important that this appreciation for the same message when it comes in different vessels, and the mood of even the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is so extremely different. So just this fact that in recent times there is so extreme opposite and different moods, it actually shows that the Lord doesn't want us to keep in the prison of Kanishta Adhikar, because this is like this quality to be extremely fascinated from difference is like a main entrance to enter Madhya Madhikar. So maybe you can elaborate just a few words on that.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. And totally, of course, we agree with that. And Madhyam Adhikari is someone who nourishes himself by diversity. So that's a very interesting. Of course, that's the difference with the Kanishta Adhikari. Kanishta Adhikari still cannot accommodate diversity. And as we say, there's place for that. There's place for being in kindergarten. But when you are already ready for the next step, and you insist to remain in kindergarten, that's unbecoming, that's not good. So it's interesting because differences among Vaishnavas, I mean, each Vaishnava being different is like an ornament in each Vaishnava. No? So if we don't appreciate the ornament, we may feel ourselves threatened by that in our narrow-mindedness. And we may end up attacking that thing that actually is the very ornament of the Gaudiya Sampradaya. All this in the name of I'm being loyal and showing faith to this. So that's the situation of the Kanishta. Of course, if the Kanishta is properly guided, he will be protected, she will be protected from that. But ideally, we should grow into this direction where diversity nourishes me. It's no longer a danger, but it's nourishing. This is a very different stance. The beginning is dangerous. Then there is no danger. It's okay, but then I need that. Of course, I need that doesn't mean that I stop having my commitment with my Gurudev, for example. And it doesn't mean like, okay, now I will listen to every single possible person on earth. And everything becomes like multi-branched and diluted. It's too much, it's not possible. But nonetheless, we should appreciate diversity. You follow my point? Like Gopa Kumar, as we were saying, he appreciates so much diversity, but at the same time, he has his goal in mind. So we may have our goal, our mood, our Gurudev, if you will, but it doesn't mean that I do not appreciate anyone else.
Because we want it's not like tolerating the difference, but it's loving the difference.
Exactly.
Because in the Nityadam, we would have a problem. Because
A
the
big
variety is
problem.
a million times more.
And as we spoke the other day, we are not thinking in terms of Nitya Bihar. There are some Vaishnava lineages who think we will enter into one point of the Lila where only will be Radha and Krishna inside the Kunja, and it will be us serving them there. Nothing else. No Jasoda, no Nanda, no Madhumangal, no Raktag, no Patrak, no cows, no forests. Only that forest bower. I'm not criticizing that, I'm just saying. But in that situation, there's no much challenge to harmonize diversity. But as we were sharing these days, between Vatsalya and Sakya, Vatsalya and Madhurya, so much transcendental clashing is there. But a clashing, quote unquote clashing, because at the same time, Jashoda loves Radha, as we know. By day one wants Krishna to sleep all night at home, the other wants Krishna to be all day awake in Rasalila. But they love each other. So if you want to go to... So we should prepare for dealing with a world of diversity. And yes, in Vrindavan, everything is properly accommodated. But being a Madhyam means to engage in that exercise of harmonizing. And Srila Siddha Maharaj will be such person. He likes so much the word harmony. So much. So much he will repeat the term harmony over and over again. Harmony, harmony, harmony. And he will refer that comes from music, which means different notes, but sounding together in the same way that sound like one single harmonious thing. But there are differences. You have sa, ga, pa. You play a chord. There are 3 notes, but they sound like one thing. So there's diversity, but joining together to create beauty. So again, in the beginning, we may not be able to that. We just may need to play one note. Only my guru, this mission, this style, this is the only thing, this is the best. And you are in your kindergarten like that. Like I gave the example, Prabhupada gave the example, I will put a fence around my neophyte disciples. So this devotional sprout, I put the seed, the sprout starts to come, but it's very weak sprout. So if I don't put a fence, a rain like today comes, and the sprout may be uprooted and die. The sprout doesn't have strength to deal with the outside world. So we will put a fence still here. So sprout will be growing, will be watered, but doesn't have an idea what's going on outside. So those who are outside think, hey, you don't know anything about life. You think that life is only that fence. It's nothing. But the sprout is in the process of getting rooted and growing upwards and growing downwards in the rooting form. That's the quality of eventually of nishta. You are growing like a tree, up but down also fixed. So at one point the sprout will start to grow above the fence, but it will only see outside the fence where the roots are properly in place, not before. So when the sprout is seeing outside the fence, like, wow, what's all this? But it's already properly rooted, so it won't be disturbed by that. It may be a little shaken in the beginning, but it's already fixed enough. So it will survive the diversity, but after a few days we'll feel, oh, this is nice. Not only I can survive the wind and the sun and the insects coming or whatever. I like this. Now I think I cannot live without this anymore. So similarly, it has to happen when we go beyond the fence of Kanishta Bhakti. We realize the diversity in the Vaishnava world. And in the beginning, you may think like, wow, what's this? Why this Acharya is singing a different Mangala Charan than my Gurudev? And that's a different Arctic song they are singing. And different tilak color. Or whatever. No, the Sika is smaller. On their side, a different prayer before Prasad. No, of course, all these are superficial details. Or the Acharya has another mood. He speaks louder, slower, quotes more verses, less verses, more poetic, more Indian, more Western. So much diversity. But if you are honest and sincere, you start to see, yes, but behind all that, there is some unity also. So there is something in common among all of them. That's the only way you can deal with the diversity. When you start to appreciate the common ground, the common idea. Oh, but they are all belong, as your Guru Maharaj will say, to Gaur Parivar. Srila Maharaj will say, all the Gaudiya expressions are like branches of the same tree, of the same trunk. And the trunk is Mahaprabhu. So we belong to one trunk with one branch, one with another branch. But all of us are part of the same tree. And you will never see the branches of a tree fighting with one another. Hey, I'm the best branch. You are the best branch. No, I belong to the trunk. You don't belong to the... It doesn't happen. But sometimes it happens in the tree of Mahaprabhu. That's embarrassing. We should feel embarrassed and feel I have to do something about this. Starting by my own example, of course. how I'm relating with other Vaishnavas, or how I'm related to the Vaishnava I live with to begin with. Because sometimes that happen. I'm nice with other Vaishnavas, but with the ones I'm living with, or I relate nicely in interreligious meetings with Christian people, Buddhist, Jewish people. Oh, how nice! I appreciate your differences. When some Vaishnava from another mission comes, it's like you start to look to another place. Tell me when he already passed. Okay. Oof. So you see in which situation you may be. Hopefully none of them. But the point is we have to grow in all the things. If we don't pass these tests, we won't enter Braj, Nitya, Navadvip. We won't be able to deal with that diversity. So here we are on the gym here, trying to exercise our our muscles, inner muscles, to work on this. So again, we will have to reach that point that diversity is beautiful and necessary. But also unity is as necessary as beautiful also. That's why another way of saying Veda is unity in diversity. So we want the two of them. We want the best of the two of them. We don't want unity to swallow diversity. And we don't want diversity to swallow unity. No? If unity swallows diversity, we end in Advaita Bad in Brahman. No diversity, all one. But as we say, that's boring. There's nobody there, nothing is going on, no exchange, nothing. And if there's only diversity and not unity, we already know that in this world, the conflicts, constant conflict because of separate interests, and we are not able to see some common cause, universal common cause. Because you may see some common cause. Let's fight for the whales in South Africa. Okay, that's it. But that's not universal common cause. No. So still there will be conflict at one point. So as I like to say, diversity is the spice of life, they say. But also too much spice, you cannot eat the whole food. But no spice, you cannot eat the food either. So the masala has to be in place. So anyhow, some words in that connection. And of course, the importance of associating with those who are giving that example to us. Like opening the doors to diversity, accompanying us there, allowing us that experience. No? As we say also the other day, it's not just like, no, don't go there. You just stay with me. No? Because actually you are afraid, oh, maybe they goes there and maybe they get inspired. So what's the problem if you get inspired? No? It's not like, oh, now we lost one devotee. No. Or sometimes I've heard devotees saying, oh, such a great soul left this world. So that's a loss. But maybe they are thinking more in loss of this person who is bringing so many people, giving so much money. We lost that. We have to think, no, that's again on the upper realm where he's going now. So we should be celebrating that. So my Guru Maharaj likes to say, with this, I think I will conclude. Let's see. I won't promise anything. The Guru is the Guru is a servant of the Shraddha of the disciple. That means to be a Guru. Guru doesn't mean like you belong to me, and you cannot go anywhere else and you do whatever I do. I say, no, you belong to me. No. The Guru feels, I'm here to serve your faith. So whatever best serves your faith, I'm willing to adapt. One story from my Guru Maharaj, and with this I conclude. Once one devotee came to my Guru Maharaj. He had been initiated by one Prabhupada disciple who after some time was unable to continue in his service as Guru. There were some situations after Prabhupada left for some years. So after that, my Gurudev took shelter. This devotee took shelter in a second Prabhupada disciple who also left his service as Guru in time. So that happened like 4 times. So you can imagine after that, it's complex. No, to recover your faith and to have hope and to fully give yourself to someone. So he met my Guru Maharaj and asked him for shelter. So my Guru Maharaj understood the situation and he gave that. So some time passed, but my Guru Maharaj was saying he's not making progress. I mean, nothing wrong happened between them. And with this, I'm going to some of the points I mentioned before, some relative aspects in the relationship that may be necessary. So my Guru Maharaj realized this devotee has gone through so many traumatic experiences with young Western gurus that although with me everything is okay, externally I'm a young Western guru. So somehow I can feel that he's not able to fully give himself. That external form is like an obstacle to him. He cannot go beyond that. Yeah, it's triggering that previous samskara. On some level, again. The disciple, maybe he was not noticing that. but my Guru Maharaj, as his Guru, was attentive. Are you making progress or not? The Guru should have a concern with that. It's not just I give you the mantra and good luck. See you whenever you reach Golok or something like that. But it's like I commit myself to accompany you in your journey. And the disciple, of course, accepts I'm willing to be accompanied. So anyhow, my Guru Maharaj realized what's the problem, if you will. And he reached a very interesting conclusion, which was he needs to accept a guru who is Indian and old. Again, it's external form, but he was trapped in that form. He needed that form because of what he experienced before. You follow my point? You cannot just say to the student, be more essentialist and just see the essence. Somebody say, I cannot. I need some form also. So and the idea came to his mind, Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj, no? Who was present at that time in the world, yeah. He passed away in 1999. Interestingly, Srila Prabhupada passed in 77, Srila Samaraj passed in 88, and Puri Maharaj passed in 99. 12. So Srila Puri Maharaj was at that time almost, as I told you that day, almost 100 years old. So my Guru Maharaj went to his disciple with this unique proposal. Generally, you don't have your own guru telling you, I think you should be reinitiated by that guru. So again, this is not generally in the general rule, but sometimes there are exceptional situations. And as a guru, you should be ready to adjust to that. Because again, my guru was thinking, I want to serve the faith of this person. But I feel that in this situation, his faith is not growing. So what arrangement we can make so his faith is nourished? So this was his idea. So he explained all this to his disciple. And the disciple understood the point and accepted the point. So he went eventually to India. They were not in India. And he met Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj. And he asked, please, I would like to receive your shelter. And Srila Puri Maharaj said, but because he already had Upavita and Kantimala, said, but you are already initiated. Yes.
Ja.
So I would like to re-receive mantra from you.
Ich möchte nochmal die Mantras bekommen.
But Srila Puri Maharaj would say, but who is your guru?
Wer ist denn dein Guru?
Now, did he fell from his position? Did he became an offender of the Vaishnava?
Ist der gegen die
Because in Shastra there are certain cases in which you can get reinitiation under certain circumstances.
Wenn dein Guru abfällt, dass du wieder einleiten
But in other circumstances that may be aparat.
Aber sonst wäre es vielleicht ein Vergehen.
If your guru is bona fide and everything, if your guru is bona fide, if you are and you look for reinitiation, means you are rejecting something bona fide. So in this case, it's sad to say, well, my Guru Dev is Tripurari Maharaj. And Srila Puri Maharaj knew my Guru Dev. So he say, why would you want reinitiation? I mean, he's a sadhu, he's bona fide Vaishnava. I cannot give you reinitiation. That will be aparat to Srila Tripurari Maharaj. No, sorry. But he said, but he told me to ask you that. And Srila Puri Maharaj was like, what? Why? No, so he explained this very unusual situation. No? I was reinitiated 4 times and this happened. So Srila Puri Maharaj kind of started to, oh, that's very unique situation. I said, okay, but I don't know if actually Tripurari Maharaj agrees with this or you are coming with this idea yourself. I don't want to do anything against his wish. Srila Puri Maharaj was very respectful of every Vaishnava. If you got to know him, he was like many will say, the personification of the 3rd verse of Shikshastakam. Literally. You can watch a video of him 5 seconds, as I said the other day, look doing like this, and you already, you feel your heart starts to melt. It's too much. I especially recommend, if you want, you can watch, that's in YouTube, his talk on when he was on his Vyasa Puja when he was 100 years. He gave a lecture on that day. One century of devotion. He was devoted from birth. So if you ask him how long you are with the devotee, he will say 1 century, 100 years. But he will make such a humble lecture at that time. The whole Vaishnava world was at his feet. But he will say, I'm getting old, I'm forgetting all, my memory is failing. Please excuse me, I won't be able to quote the verses properly. And then he will recite Mangalacharan for 40 minutes. So you say, well, if that's bad memory, okay. And again, so many people say, you're offering puja to me, Vyasa puja, but actually, this goes to my Guru Maharaj. It's like if someone, there's a person with his dog, and if you put the garland of the owner of the dog, and some petals fell on the dog, you put a garland of the owner of the dog, and some petals of the garland fall on the dog, you are not offering the flowers to the dog. That just happened accidentally. So I'm like that. I'm like the dog at the feet of my Guru Maharaj. So all this is offered to him, and I'm just these petals. And when he will say that, his voice will choke up. He will stop speaking. He'll start to cry and start like this. So anyhow, the point is that Srila Puri Maharaj was able to speak with my Guru Maharaj. And my Guru Maharaj confirmed, yes, I sent him, I asked him to use. Okay, so Puri Maharaj said, okay, so then under those exceptional circumstances, I'll do it. So again, this is an example of this type of mentality and flexibility and importance of relative aspects sometimes in our relationship with people. So things that we should think about deeply also. Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj ki. Okay, so I think we have already spoken more than 2 hours, so one just little more thing.
No, just under the prayer.
Yes.
You know that we meditate on Srila Maharaj and
Yes.
that, like in the prayer of Lila Premadan,
Mm.
actually we feel like orphans in this world. There were so many great souls who came to this world. You're still here. And Navagam Thakur is even saying in the absence of such personality, I don't know what I should do. Maybe I should jump in the fire. It would be less pain. So it's very interesting when we hear about such wonderful souls like Srila Maharaj. There should come a pain in our heart. And this pain gets greater and greater. And jumping in the fire or smashing one's head on the stone will be much less pain than this. So this is just, it's actually an intense thing. It's not. Say Sabha Sangira Sangha Yekurva Vilash. And I'm just praying and praying. One day, may I sit in their Sangha and that I can sit with them, hearing them speak about my beloved Lord.
Tatastu. So be it. So that's our aspiration, as we said in the beginning. That's our goal after getting liberated. Krishna Prem Janme Tenho Punar Mokya Anga. When we attain Prem, Sadhu Sangha becomes the main aspect of our practice. Forever. Sadhu Sangha ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Shri Gaur Gadadhar ji ki jai, Shri Radha Govinda ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, TIROBHAVA MAHOTSAVA Srila Bhakti Rakshitadev Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Gaur Pramananda Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyaiva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Hari Bo.